white genocide.
Stop white genocide.
The hashtag white genocide to protest what they contend is an effort to eliminate the white race.
Osman'ın Germania, Osman'ın Germania. Wir kommen und übernehmen das ganze Land.
My concern is doing away with whiteness. Whiteness is a form of racial oppression, sure. The suggestion is that it is somehow possible to separate whiteness from oppression, and it is not. There can be no white race. The task is to bring this minority together in such a way that it makes it impossible for the legacy of whiteness to continue to reproduce itself.
I think there's a resurgence of anti-Semitism because at this point in time, Europe has not yet learned how to be multicultural. And I think we're going to be part of the throes of that transformation, which must take place. Europe is not going to be the monolithic societies that they once were in the last century. Jews are going to be at the center of that. It's a huge transformation for Europe to make. They are now going into a multicultural mode, and Jews will be resented because of our leading role. But without that leading role and without that transformation, Europe will not survive.
Diversity is now, in some parts of Europe, seen as a threat. Diversity comes with challenges. But diversity is humanity's destiny. There is not going to be, even in the remotest places of this planet, a nation that will not see diversity in its future. That's where humanity is heading. And those politicians trying to sell to their electorates a society that is exclusively composed of people from one culture are trying to portray a future based on a past that never existed. Therefore, that future will never be.
And the wave still continues. It's not going to stop, nor should we want it to stop. An unrelenting stream of immigration, non-stop, non-stop. Folks like me who are Caucasian of European descent, for the first time in 2017, will be in an absolute minority in the United States of America. Absolute minority. Fewer than 50% of the people in America, from then and on, will be white European stock. That's not a bad thing. That's a source of our strength.
There is this inextricable tie between culture, religion, ethnicity, that most people don't fully understand, that is unique and so strong with Jews worldwide. You know, I used to say early on when I was a kid, I'd say, when I was a young senator, I'd say, if I were a Jew, I'd be a Zionist. I am a Zionist. You don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist.
With respect to how we deal with each other, the demographics of the country are going to change. It's inevitable. The Latino community in America is going to grow. If you stopped all immigration today, just by virtue of birth rates, this is going to be a browner country.
Many of the millennials, dreamers, undocumented citizens, and I call them citizens because they contribute to this country, are fearful of voting. So if I vote, will immigration know where I live? Will they come for my family and deport us?
Not true.
Okay.
And the reason is, first of all, when you vote, you are a citizen yourself, and there is not a situation where the voting rolls somehow are transferred over and people start investigating, etc. The sanctity of the vote is strictly confidential in terms of who you voted for. If you have a family member who maybe is undocumented, then you have an even greater reason to vote.
אין בן דוד בא עד שתיפול אדום המזלזלים בישראל. Ce que je vous ai dit tout à l'heure, c'est marqué dans Sanhédrin. Le Mashiach viendra que quand Édom, l'Europe, la chrétienté sera totalement tombée. Donc je vous pose la question, c'est une bonne nouvelle que l'islam envahisse l'Europe? C'est une excellente nouvelle, ça annonce la venue de Mashiach. Excellente nouvelle.
It's the end of days. You're going to need the iron of Esav, which represents Edom, which is the West, Europe, and the Americas, to get intermixed with Ishmael, which is basically Arabs and Muslims. How in the world was this ever going to happen if not for this refugee crisis? At the end of days, you're going to have this intermixing between Esav, Edom, which is the West, and the East, which is the Muslims and the Arabs, making this through this influx into the world. And they're going to have children, you know, I don't want to say by the dozens, but they're going to have a far larger birth rate than the indigenous people there, and they're going to sort of conquer by number. And there are many different sources for this. One of them in Yehezkel, chapter 14, and many other sources as far as this is concerned, where it's mentioned very, very vividly what will happen to the Jews and what will happen to Yerushalayim and what will happen to the world at that time, where there will be many, many people killed and so on and so forth. So the idea of having these refugees come into Europe, it's no longer a matter of whether it's right or wrong. It's just simply a fulfillment of what it was meant to be all along. This is the fulfillment of, you know, the Hazal and the prophecies. This has to happen, and this is just another sign that we are nearing, you know, the completion of this tikkun of the entire world.
Exactly what is happening. There is a clash of civilizations, and we, the Jews, we are in the middle of this clash of civilizations. On one side is what happened in Paris and Brussels, and that children who walk with the kippah in the streets in Paris are being attacked. On the other side, what we have the counter-reaction of old Europe. We have the laws against limiting religious freedom in Switzerland, against the minarets, in France, against the burqa, the attempted law in Germany against circumcision, the attempted law in Holland and in Poland against halal or kosher meat. So this is the reaction of old Europe against this new wave of religious expression.
So essentially what you're saying is that in these both you're together with both Muslims
yes.
and people of other denominations.
And we see ourselves together, fighting together with our Muslim brothers who want a free Europe, who want a peaceful Europe, who want to integrate like our forefathers integrated in Western Europe 120 years ago, and they are our natural allies.
كذلك أوروبا كل أقطارها كلهم تقطر قلوبهم حقدا على المسلمين يتمنون لنا الموت ولكنهم فقدوا إخصابهم ويبحثون عن إخصاب عندنا سنخصبهم وسوف ننزل وسوف ننجب منهم لأننا سوف نفتح بلادهم رغم عنوفكم يا أيها الألمان يا أيها الأمريكان يا أيها الفرنسيون يا أيها الطليان يا كل من على وزن الطليان خذوا اللاجئين سنطلبهم منكم قريبا باسم دولة الخلافة القادمة.
هناك علامات أخرى تدل على أن الإسلام سيظهر الله في أوروبا بدون سيف بدون بندقية بدون فتح. 50 مليون مسلم في أوروبا بعد عشرات السنين سيحول أوروبا إلى قارة مسلمة.
Une cinquantaine de millions d'Europe, si vous voulez, donc des centaines d'années, l'Europe, si Dieu le veut ou si Dieu nous donne vie, va devenir musulmane.
الله بيسخر أمة مسلمة وهي الأمة التركية بتدخل في الاتحاد الأوروبي. هذه 50 مليون مسلم.
Voilà une cinquantaine de millions de musulmans.
سيكون 100 مليون مسلم في أوروبا.
Donc il y aura une centaine de millions de musulmans en Europe.
البانيا دخلت في الاتحاد الأوروبي وهي دولة مسلمة. البوسنة دخلت في الاتحاد الأوروبي وهي دولة مسلمة أو 50% منها مسلمين. أوروبا الآن في ورطة وكذلك أمريكا.
Et ainsi de suite pour l'Amérique.
أما أن تقبل بأنها ستصبح مسلمة بمرور الزمن أو تعلن الحرب على المسلمين.
فأصبح هناك مع الهجرة مع عدم الزواج مع عدم الرغبة في الإنجاب الهرب بتاعهم 100 يرثه 80 وال80 بعد 10 سنين يورثهم 60 وال60 يورثهم كام 40 وال40 بعد 10 سنين 10 بعد 20 سنة مش هيبقى في حد. وهكذا أدركت أوروبا هذا، أدركوا هذا يقينا. بعد فترة من الزمن سيكون أوروبا دولة إسلامية واحدة موحدة لا تعرف إلا لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله، غصب عنهم مش برغبتهم. هكذا قدر الله، لأن الإسلام قادم.
الكويت ودول الخليج غالية ومكلفة ولا تصلح لعيش اللاجئين، تصلح للعمل. أيضا النقل مكلف. المعيشة في الكويت غالية، بينما المعيشة في لبنان أو في تركيا قد تكون أرخص، لذلك المبلغ الذي يدفع للاجئين السوريين يكون مرتين أسهل. في النهاية لا تستطيع أنك أنت تستقبل ناس آخرين من بيئة أخرى من مكان آخر في عندهم مشاكل نفسية أو عصبية أو عندهم تروما وتدخلهم في المجتمع.
A showdown over Sharia is coming in Belgium because the high Muslim birth rate is changing the political landscape. The most common baby name in Brussels for 4 years running has been Mohammed.
You think it's a matter of time before Muslims are the majority here?
Yeah, of course, even the disbelievers themselves, they say that in 2030, something like that, there will be a majority Muslims here in Belgium. Even the city, Antwerp, more than 40% of the children in the schools are Muslims. So it's just a matter of time. No problem. We don't have any problem.
And Imran offered this advice to white native Belgians.
If they want to push us back or something like that, I don't know, maybe they can start to marry 4 wives and have a lot of children. Start with that, maybe they will have a chance, but I don't think so.
Van Roy also sees a Muslim future.
I don't think it's going to stop. I'm very pessimistic about it. I think more and more people, Belgian people, will leave Brussels. So it will come a real Islamic capital in decades.
The victory of Allah is very near. So I think that the West need to prepare themselves for a wave of Sharia in Islam.
Our number one and top priority is to protect and defend our communities. It is not to assimilate and to please any other people in authority. Our obligation is to our young people, is to our women, and make sure our women are protected in our community. And our top priority, even higher than all those priorities, is to please Allah and only Allah.
They look at the plot to replace Europeans with refugees. And they say this is a UN document from 2000. It's called Replacement Migration. Is it a solution to declining and aging populations? That's the UN's document. And we'll take a look at that in just a moment. It details plunging birth rates across Europe and, of course, also in the U.S. and Japan. And it identifies a solution to those declining birth rates: mass immigration that you're now seeing. They say without the migration of populations from the developing world, it reasons, economies will suffer because of labor shortages and falling tax revenues. According to UN documents, the meeting was attended by a host of government and non-governmental organizations and individuals. You know those people that they like to call shareholders or stakeholders? That's what they call them. I think either way. They're the ones who are going to own everything. You are going to be the property. And those are the types of people that we see attending these events like Bilderberg and others, that some of them public, some of them secret. Some of these organizations were the International Organization for Migration. That's a UN group. And it said that mass migration is not only, quote, inevitable, but necessary. Also, the UN Population Fund, a group dedicated to family planning, in other words, depopulation, and the spread of contraceptives. So they talk about this. At the same time, they say, well, you know, we got to solve this problem. There's too much of a falling birth rate in the West,